Hey guys, this is the Mad Professor, Dr. John Gross, coming to you from my palatial penthouse in Iraq, where I'm currently living, and like to greet you on this April 2nd, 2025. It should be April 1st, because it should be April Fool's Day, because we just had some fool claim this is Liberation Day because he's actually putting massive new taxes, more taxes than any president has ever imposed in the history of the United States. Um, Partly because presidents don't actually have the power to impose taxes, but I'll come back to that point later on. But we've got this guy in the White House who apparently won the last election because apparently a lot of Americans are just, you know, I won't say it, just leave it right there. But he's announced these tariffs that he's been talking about for the last year. This is something he promised to do. He didn't promise to invade Canada. He didn't promise to make Canada the 51st state or get us involved in a war with NATO. He didn't promise it, but he's doing that too. But right now, let's talk today about tariffs and other matters about the so-called powers of the presidency. So I'm going to keep this very simple. No graphs, no tables, no charts, nothing to distract you from the brilliance of my mentality. And if you like this kind of stuff, share, subscribe, like, whatever. Um, Not many people do, so if you do, that will put you in a very exclusive group. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but Trump just announced, uh, I guess yesterday in the U.S., this massive across the board tariffs, which he calls baseline tariffs of 10% and then reciprocal tariffs. Now, nobody really knows what any of this means. Nobody in any logical world knows what any of these things mean. Uh, Donald Trump doesn't know what these things mean. But in any case, they put a 10% tariff on everything, and then he's going to have reciprocal tariffs. Now, what is a reciprocal tariff? Well, in theory, this is the thing. The president does not have the power to impose any taxes. That's not his power. I'm going to read to you from the United States Constitution, which is a document I highly recommend you read. You can find it online or at the local library or buy a copy for 50 cents. Um, and Section 1, which deals with Congress, Article 1 deals with Congress, and Section 8 very specifically states this at the beginning. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. That's it. The Congress, not the president. President does not have the power to raise taxes. Now, what are taxes? Taxes are things the government collects in order to fund its activities. And these include, as they say, duties. The duty is something you pay when you bring something into a country, sometimes also called tariffs, which is what, for some reason, we're talking about today. Imposts and excises are also different kinds of tariffs. So these are things that are put on imports into the country. Sometimes they're put on exports. But the point is, Congress has to impose these, not the president. The president does not have the power to impose taxes according to the US Constitution. Now, what has happened over the years, and you can Google this, look it up on a reputable website, please. But basically, over the years, what has happened is because tariff policy is a two-edged thing. One is to raise money, and in the original 100 years or so of the United States, it was the main way of raising money because you put a tariff on goods coming into the country. You collect maybe 5%, 10% of the value of the good. That would be what the government used for its expenses. Um, there were other ways they could give direct taxes by saying to the states, every state has to give us a certain amount per population. And this is where the 3/5 thing came in. So don't get confused. The point is, direct taxes were very inefficient and very rarely used, and usually were very punitive for poorer states because the direct taxes had to be equal according to the number of people. So if New York had a million people and Idaho had a million people, they both had to pay the same amount of taxes, even though the people in New York were a lot richer. Anyway, so these tariffs or duties on imports, that kind of tax was the main kind of tax used by the United States throughout its history up until they passed the ability to have uh, income taxes, which are much fairer because they go according to people's income. Anyway, so the point is, these tariffs then are collected when you import goods, you pay a certain percentage to the government. So one reason for it was to raise money, but the other reason for these import taxes or tariffs was also to protect local industry. So, for example, if you put a 10% tax on foreign wood, forestry products or whatever, then people are going to be like, okay, now this wood from England costs an extra 10%. Maybe I should buy my wood locally in the United States. So this helped to develop the US industry. And one of the reasons why US industry developed so strongly is because of early tariffs. But these tariffs were usually 5 or 10%. They were not these massive tariffs that Trump is proposing. So, long and the short, here's the thing. So, Congress, because sometimes other countries impose tariffs on the United States for some reason or another, Congress gave the president the power in an emergency to declare a reciprocal tariff, to say, okay, let's say Norway just put a tariff on our cars that we sell to Norway, right? So they put a 25% tariff on our cars. So now people in Norway don't buy US cars anymore, right? So this was used, these tariffs were sometimes used as political leverage or punishment to punish a country. So this is why the president was given the power to impose a reciprocal tax. That means a tax that would reciprocate the tax that the other guys had put on us. So they put a 25% tax on our goods. Okay, we're going to put a 25% tax on your goods, right? So this kind of tariff policy is more like not war exactly, although we call it a trade war when it happens, right? So it's kind of a warlike situation. We're using our tariffs to punish other countries by putting taxes on the goods that they import into the U.S. Now, let's clarify. Those taxes are not paid by the other country. They're paid by consumers in our country. And the point of the tariff is to discourage people from buying goods from those countries, right? So that's why the president has been given over the years, the last 50, 60 years specifically, Congress has said to the president, okay, look, we can't act quickly. You can, because you're just one guy, and you can act quickly. So we're going to give you this power to impose reciprocal or sometimes called punitive tariffs, punishment tariffs on other countries, but it's only temporary. You can do it, but it has to be approved by Congress within about a month. All right, don't I'm not exactly sure if it's a month or maybe longer than that, but it's a limited period of time. The point is, it was very similar to the War Powers Act, where the president is given the power to use the military in a clear case of self defense or emergency. So, this is very self defense and emergency, right? And then the president is given this power for a temporary period of time because remember, only Congress has the power to impose taxes. Only Congress has the power to declare war. The president cannot declare war. He cannot even send our troops abroad in harm's way, right? But Congress gave him this temporary ability, or him, I should say, the president, this temporary ability to wage trade wars or military war, right? But only in a clear emergency and clearly in to defend our interests. Now, of course, in the past, of course, presidents have abused this ability, right? We got involved in Vietnam because um, uh, under Eisenhower and under uh, Kennedy and Johnson, they claimed, oh, there's an emergency, they're attacking our troops. A lot of that was made up. It happened again in other cases. Certainly in the case of the Afghan War, the Iraq War, right? So, oh, see, I have a dog here who's very angry about this. So they have given the power this ability, and presidents have abused this power, right? Reagan invaded an island in the Caribbean, right? He didn't ask for permission from Congress; he just invaded it, and then he went to Congress and said, "Look, I invaded this island. What are you going to do about it?" Right? So presidents have abused that power, but nobody has even in their wildest imagination thought that a president would abuse their power as much as this. Now, this is what's the clear situation. This power belongs to Congress, and Congress can and must take this power back. They must take away the power from the president to impose, even on an emergency basis, any kind of tariff. And given Trump's ideas about Canada and claiming that he doesn't rule out the use of military force to take over Greenland, right? These are countries we're at peace with. We've never had any conflict with either Canada or Greenland, right? Well, not since the 1812 war in the case of Canada. Okay, we did invade them in the 1812 war, and they did kick our ass. So with that said, now we have since the 1812 war a president claiming this power. Well, we have to stop it. And how do we do that? Well, Congress has to act, and they have to basically take away these powers, these emergency powers from the president. And you might say, well, how can you do that? Oh, now the president's not. Well, you know what? We don't need the president to be given all these powers. Congress gave these powers to the president because they were lazy, basically. So they wanted some mechanism which could be done quickly in the case of a clear emergency. Well, you know what? You don't have to give that power to the president. You can have a committee made up of top leaders in Congress, maybe involving the president in some capacity, but you don't have to give that power to the president by himself, right? So my recommendation at this point, or we have to abrogate the War Powers Act. We have to take away these tariff powers that the president has, and basically say, look, you know what? You cannot impose a tariff unilaterally. You can only impose a tariff in emergency. Well, you can't do it. Period. We'll have a committee of people who are empowered to impose a tariff in an emergency situation, and empowered to conduct war or defensive war in an emergency situation, which would also include taking away the nuclear codes from you know Diet Coke, Trump. Gotta admit, I like that Diet Coke too. Um, because we don't need him to have it, and it's far too dangerous to allow one person to have that much power in our system. All right, with all these weapons that we have. So, with that said, again, if you like what I say, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends. You have a great day. And the Mad Professor, hoping that these tariffs will be overturned by Congress. Of course, we have to realize Congress is right now controlled by a bunch of maggots who have no uh, back backbone. They have no spines. They have no guts. They think that if they say anything boo to Trump, that they're going to get kicked out. That's not the way our system was designed. Our system was designed to have checks and balances. So let's put those checks and balances back in. And it doesn't take any changes in the Constitution. It just takes guts in the Congress. All right. You have a good day.